Hello everyone. The poem we will be discussing is called Richard Cory by Edwin Arlington Robinson. If you're not familiar with this poem, you can take a moment. In the description is the poem. You can look at that. So you can pause that and do that if you need to. First, I want to discuss with you the theme. So despite wealth and status, things are not always what they appear to be. Onlookers can rarely know the full story of those that, we encounter. So in this story, we're going to talk about the rhetorical elements. And the easiest way to do that is to go through them as they appear throughout the poem. Okay, so in the first stanza, the terms that are used are sold to crown and imperially slim. These are both examples of imagery because the author uses these terms to begin to establish the character of Richard Cory, as some people would look up to him. This alludes to the elegancy of Richard Cory, the crown that, for instance, a king would wear upon his head, so royalty status. Then on the second stanza, quietly arrayed is an example of imagery. So he was particular about the way he dressed, but in a subtle way. And so this is all setting the scene of Richard Cory. So then also in the second stanza, it talks about fluttered pulses. The author uses this, and it would be a term in its personification. And the reason it's personification is because pulses do not really flutter, but it would allude to say that he enjoyed talking to people. That wasn't a problem. So he got along with people, he would talk to them. And then glittered when he walked is another term that is used as imagery. So Richard liked to be the center of attention. He was alluring to the people around him. He attracted their attention. And then the third stanza, richer than a king. That would be an example of a simile, because you're again comparing the wealth of Richard Cory. He's wealthy as a king. And then he was everything. This is an example of a metaphor because it alludes to the townspeople and their high regard of this man. So then also in the last stanza, curse the bread. And this is an example of imagery because bread was the only means of survival for people of lower means. So it's again saying that, he could afford things that most of these others could not when it came to food. And then in the second to the last sentence of the last stanza, it says one calm summer night, which this is an example of imagery. And it's setting the scene for the next line, which is a shocking and unexpected to the reader. And then put a bullet through his head is considered an example of a euphemism. And it is that is a common, less graphic way to state that, he shot himself. And then the reason I enjoyed this poem is because the author did a great job setting the scene of this character that seemed to have it all together. He ended up, he was in a dark place maybe, and so ended with a suicide. So I like this poem. Thank you.